April 23rd, 2022, officers from the Milwaukee Police Department in Wisconsin responded to a slew of 911 calls. One caller, Kashawn Rowley, shared that he was at his girlfriend Leah Davis's apartment and she was shot.
Are you hearing any gunshots?
Over here? Hey, Claire! Claire's! Stand over there. Stand over there. Stand over there. Don't move.
I'm not moving, bro. I watched the gun on my soul. I'm not moving.
Officers follow Kashawn to Leah's apartment, where they find an unresponsive Leah on the floor, blood coming from her head. A third officer arrives, and they apprehend Kashawn to remove him from the room so they can fully attend to Leah.
I just started grinning and everything. I never. All right. I never take him out and go outside.
She's got a gunshot wound to the head.
Well, listen. She told me that I was listening. So I came over here, right? I'm literally, she only let me stand right here. Mind you, okay? Listen. Did you listen to me? Yeah. I was listening to me. Listen, she only let me stand right here. Look, I'm gonna show you. She only let me stand right here, bro. Listen, she was like, oh, I'm finna see. I asked her, can I come over? She said, you can come over for a little bit. I said, okay. I said, but when I got over here, she was like, no, you can't come in. She always said like that because she wanted to get ready to go to sleep. I'm like, okay, you want to get ready to go to sleep, so I'm finna go. I literally came down here to my car. I literally came over here to my car. I got in my car. Okay, listen, guys, listen. For real. For real. Right, I'm listen.
Gunshot wound to the head, a black female, not breathing, and a gunshot wound to the center of the forehead.
No pulse on her?
No.
I see here, I guess. Yeah, I am. Sorry to see you guys.
Listen, I swear to God, right?
You're good, buddy.
Huh?
You're good, buddy.
Okay, look, I swear to God, everything I love. Listen, I came to my car. The moment I opened my car door, I heard 8 shots come from her apartment. I literally, bro, I'm thinking somebody shooting, I was say shooting out somewhere, so I pulled up the street. Like, but I turn around because I'm like, dog, bro, that's my girl, bro. I really love this girl to death. So I'm like, okay, so I turn around, bro. Listen, I'm beating on the fucking door to try to get the fuck back in the apartment because I don't have the key or nothing, bro.
I need a cage card for him. I literally just started seeing her shot to the head. We're not conscious, not breathing. Yeah, there's gray matter.
You heard me?
Yeah, I hear you.
So listen, she told me that the moment I get by her car, I listen, the moment I get by my car, right? Listen, I hear 8 shots, bro. I run upstairs, bro, because I listen, her door unlocked because she just closed the door behind me, bro. I made sure she was okay because I told her, when I was here, I said, okay, I'm going to call you later like that because I know you're going to work tonight. She worked at Walmart on East Capitol, okay? So listen, when I got to my car, I swear to God, I heard 8 shots. I go up there, bro. I look, all I do is open the door, bro. She's laying on the fucking ground, bro.
We'll sort it out, buddy.
We
just got here, and this guy is the one that called. I have no idea, to be honest.
Do you have any info on her?
No, I have none. We just got here. So, right, I mean, you guys came here quicker than we did. Hey, there is a bullet next to her on the left side. So be careful where it is. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get in your way here, man. Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Well, right now, she's obviously shot. You're the only person in the apartment, so you're just detained right now, okay? You have nothing on you, right? No. Like I said, you're not arrested, but you're just detained until we figure out what's going on. All right. What happened?
We're taking a second here to point out the irony behind his shirt in this situation.
I'm gonna tell you the same thing that I told you. Listen, so me and her, listen, she just had got home like 45 minutes ago, hour ago. Okay. I called her. She had said, can I come see you? She had said, at first she had said no. I said, okay. I said, can I come see you? She said, yeah, you can come see me, but only for a little bit because I have to go to work tonight because she work at Walmart East Capitol. I normally take her to work between 9:30 and 9:40. I said, okay. When I got over here, she only let me stand in the door. She did not let me go in the house or nothing like that, bro. Nothing. Like, that's my girlfriend. I've been over there multiple times. She didn't let me go over there. So she had said, okay, you have to leave because I'm finna get ready to go to sleep. I said, okay. I literally walked down the stairs. I came out the door. She closed the door behind me. I told her. I said, okay, I'm going to call you later and make sure that you're good and that you're okay because I know you got work. And I told her to call me if you need a ride to work. Okay, this is what I do on the day. So I said, okay. I literally got to my car door. I literally go to open my car door and I hear 8 shots coming out her apartment. Not her apartment, but the fucking house complex. You know what I'm saying? So then I'm getting scared like all I'm hearing is shots. Huh?
Which car is yours?
Black tractor right there.
Right here?
Mm-hmm.
Parked the wrong way?
Yeah, it's parked the wrong way.
Lammers.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
I'm trying to find an ID.
I'm trying to look for a gun. Sorry, no, you're good, you're good. I'm just trying to make sure there's no gun in here.
7250, they're calling it DOE.
What happened after that? What'd you do?
Because, listen, I got up in the car, but I pulled up, I'm like, what the f*** they shooting? But, you know what I'm saying, I don't want to get shot. Shit, you know what I'm saying, I'm an innocent bystander. Or whatever, I don't want him to come outside or whatever the f*** catch may be and shoot me. So I'm like, okay, bet. So, I literally, but I turn around and feel like that. I literally turn around. I pull the back up, bro. I'm banging on the fucking door to get back up in there because I don't have the keys to our apartment. I cannot get in that complex. What?
We're trying to sort out what's going on right now, man. We'll come talk to you in a
You know what I'm
second.
saying? Listen, I swear to God on everything I love.
You went back in?
No, I went back in after the shots. I went back in after the shots because I knocked on the fucking door and they never opened the door for me.
Okay. And you went back
I went back upstairs.
Was your door open?
Your door was already unlocked.
Okay,
I'm telling you, the door is already unlocked. I'm literally trying to know what's wrong. All I see is blood on the floor. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, no, it's in my car.
Okay. What's your name?
Keyshawn, K-E-S-H-A-W-N. Rouse.
Does that look like a bullet hole in the water in front of you? Right there? Yeah, that's what that is. Looks like you got some brain there over here. Yeah, it came in through here. Is that one right there? Or not? Looks like she might have been shot twice. Unless she held up her arm in front of her.
Here's the actual brain matter. 5 wounds total, 1, 2. 1 in the other arm, and then 2 in the head.
And look at, there's stuff all over here. All up here. Did you look through the window?
Yeah, it's brain matter right on the window.
Bro, I'm trying to figure out this. The first thing I do is I call her friend. I'm like, bro, you know, I said, I don't know what the fuck just happened. She said, what? I said, bro, I don't know what just happened, bro. I just heard 8 shots go from our apartment. She said, wait. She said, wait, what's going on, bro? I said, bro, I just heard 8 shots come out of our apartment, bro. She said, wait. I called her granny, bro. I told her granny I heard 8 shots come out of her apartment. She her granny like, what you mean you heard 8 shots come out of our apartment? I said, bro, I'm literally in the house right now. Rousey, R-O-W-S-E-Y.
This question I'm asking, anyone something I'd be worried about?
No, I don't.
Down probation for
No, I don't.
Alright. Slide in real quick. The window here, it's cool. Thomas, you said? Or Davis?
Davis,
What's her name?
I don't know her middle name.
She lives here?
Yes.
Alright, slide.
So you just say, look, you crack it up, keep it up.
Yeah. I'm gonna get the keys so I get the air conditioner.
Okay, I'm not finna do nothing, bro. You just, I'm operating keys, just leave it open so I can literally just see everything.
What's the squad number on this?
Listen, I swear to God, Jasmine, everything I love, bro, listen. She said I could come over for a little bit. I came over here for literally 5 minutes, bro. She didn't let me in the door, bro. She didn't let me in the door. I literally, listen, when she told me to leave, I left. I literally got by my car door and I heard some shots coming from her apartment, bro.
She's trying to relax. When I get the key, I'll turn the air conditioner stuff. Alright.
Listen, I just want to breathe, bro. That's
Yeah,
it.
no, I'll leave it open.
I just want to breathe, bro. I got you. Then her granny keep asking me, did you do it? No, I didn't do that. I love that girl.
And they found 5 total bullet holes. There's gray matter on her pants, on the window seal. There is a bullet fragment on her right side over here. And then there's look like a strike mark in the corner. You can see it from here so far. And then once they move out of the way, we'll keep looking.
7 holes.
7?
Yeah, 7 holes. Just 1 right arm, 2 in the head, 2 in the head.
Yeah, just leave it.
Hey, that car in the block later for you, man?
Yeah, that's my car.
Hey, you see me coming out of that place?
No, I didn't know, but I left. I pulled off. Okay, listen. I pulled off, bro. I pulled off. I got scared because there was shots. I pulled off. I came back.
So when you came out of here. You didn't see anybody go in there?
No, I didn't. But listen, she was already at home when I got here.
I know, but you said you left, but you didn't want to.
Again, but she didn't let me in the door. I don't know if somebody was in there or not. She didn't let me in the house. What are you talking about? No, I did. I said I heard 8 shots. I said I heard 8 shots from out of her apartment. I heard 8 shots shots from in there. I heard bang, 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 bang.
Come on, cooperate.
I am cooperating, bro.
I know, so
Yeah, yes, I know the whole neighborhood ain't none of my business, bro, but I'm just saying, bro. I'm trying to tell you, because everybody trying to look at me like I did.
No, I told you straight up, you're not arrested, you're detained right now,
Okay,
right?
and I understand that.
We get called here, someone shot, right?
Yes, and I called you all.
Hold on. Breathe, buddy. You keep yelling over me because I'm on your side, alright? I told you straight up, you're not arrested, you're detained. I just obviously got to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
You're in the apartment, she's shot. I'm sorting out everything. You're not arrested. Your story checks out. Just let everything happen for a second, alright? Detectives are gonna come, everybody's gonna talk to you, things will be cool, alright?
Okay, bro.
Just be smooth with me.
Okay.
Shot here. Any casings or anything? There's a bullet fragment over next to her.
I saw that.
Yeah, there's a stripe. There's a stripe to the wall. You see it right here?
Oh yeah.
Right there, and then it hits there. But there's brain matter on the window over here. Right over here, and it's in her lap, and she was up in the corner. So I'm curious. I don't think this happened here. I think.
You don't think it happened here?
Oh, there's no. I mean, she got shot 5 times.
She got shot 5 times?
There's 7 total holes. Yeah.
And he said,
He heard 8 gunshots. Yeah, there's no one else in here. This was on live.
Right, hey, I'm not, bro. Can I just breathe? I'm breathing.
No, but you're trying to talk to them.
No, I'm not, bro. I'm just letting you know, bro. I got alibis, bro. Greg, we're not just with you, bro. I've been with you all day, bro. I just dropped you off over your 80,000, over there by the court, bro, so you can play with Trey Simon. I was just with you, bro.
This is your last one. I'm not close to her, okay?
anything on the home? No, there's nothing. He had 3 callers, and he's one of them. Not one casing on here. His quick story was, he had come over here.
This officer relays his knowledge of the situation to who appears to be an investigative officer. Simultaneously, Kashan again recounts his story to an officer, but added small additional bits of information.
Bro. Now I'm talking to you. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, bro. Y'all want to know, y'all asking me how I got in the apartment and everything. When I first got here, her neighbor was opening the door. I came in the door. I knocked on her door. She opened it. She would not let me in, sir.
She told you to come over though, right?
Yeah, she said I can come over while we was on the phone. Me and her literally had a conversation. We literally was on the phone.
So that's your girlfriend?
That was my ex-girlfriend, but we getting back together.
Okay.
Yeah, we was getting back together.
How long were you guys together on and off?
Listen, we've been together for a year and a half. We just broke up like 3 weeks ago, but me and her been talking about getting back together and stuff like that. And she said we getting back together. She just needed time to, you know what I'm saying, get through her feelings and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm literally sitting here being, you know what I'm saying? I'm literally sitting here being okay with all that because I understand. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got feelings, bro.
Kashan recounts his story from here, reiterating that he was at the apartment. Then as he was getting into his car to leave, he heard 8 gunshots, sped off in fear, but then returned, allegedly concerned about Leah's safety. He shares in greater detail the moment of his return to her apartment.
I knocked on her door again. I'm like, Leah. I checked the door to see if it's unlocked. The door's unlocked. I open the door. All I see her is on the floor dead. I literally dropped down to my knees, bro. The first person I call is her motherfucking friend. I call her right there. I call her friend. I tell her. I'm like, bro, I just heard 8 shots come out her apartment complex. I'm crying like a motherfucker, bro. She's like, hold on. She just left me and shit like that, bro. I said, fam, I just heard 8 shots come out her apartment complex. So then she had said, hold on, I'm gonna call you back. Of course, her granny. Her granny said, what the fuck happened? What the fuck happened? I'm telling her granny, bro, like, I just heard 8 shots come out your granddaddy complex.
Get up here.
Granddaughter complex, like that. I'm literally doing all that shit, right?
Aries.
All I know about, I literally, bro, I swear to God on my soul. I'm like,
Damn.
who the fuck did she asked me did I do it? I said, I did not do it. I said, I didn't do it. I said, I don't know, bro. I said, she didn't let me in the house.
Did you see somebody run out?
I sped down the street. I sped down the street, bro. I didn't see nobody run in and out.
When you heard the shots fired out here, you didn't see anybody run out the bar?
No, I didn't. I drove off.
Do you think someone was in there?
Bro, I don't know. She didn't let me through the door.
Okay. He was in the apartment when we got here. He was in the apartment? Yeah.
Yes, I can't listen. I had the door. Look, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to.
I know you gave
I got the black thing, but I got the black thing held open so I can get back into the house because I don't have a key to get back in.
I hear you, buddy. Take a seat.
You guys got the keys for 541? Yeah, that's the guy that the possible suspect is sitting in the back of it. It's not running. And he's yelling because he's hot. So I want to get the AC on there so I can shut the door on.
In this moment, a bystander speaks to an officer about getting information for Leah's grandmother, who is apparently on scene.
Okay, well, I can't really say anything because I don't know anything other than there's somebody that's shot. Can't release any information right now. If that's her grandma, is her mom around? Okay, well, have her sit there. I'll come talk to her in a minute, okay?
The bystander implies that Leah's mother is deceased, and social media post made by Leah herself supports this claim. Leah's grandmother has now not just lost her daughter in recent years, but now her granddaughter too.
We have an officer available. The grandmother is down on the east end of Lisbon. I'll be the next of kin.
Yeah, that's possibly him right there. Oh, that's him, but that's possibly suspect.
He's talking very fast, like he's nervous. Extremely fast.
That's,
The story doesn't make a lot of sense.
that's kind of cool.
Is there a gun up there?
No gun, there's no casings.
Get this guy right here. But it's on the wrong side of the tape.
Yeah, just stay inside for now. Okay. Did you hear anything? You're right next door. I'll tell you what, I'll let a detective know to come over back to you private.
While an on-camera interview does not happen with this individual, officers do question the downstairs neighbor about the incident.
We heard a loud bam bam. I didn't think it was a gunshot, but I just thought he was banging on the door some more. Like I thought he kicked it instead of hitting me, but then he ran out. Yeah.
Did you make out what he was saying?
He was saying let me in, she was saying go or leave or something. Things like that. I just moved in like 3 months ago.
Okay.
And they argued all the time. 10 minutes later, the car pulls back up, but he had someone with him, like a female, I hear a female voice. And they're both like, she's dead. So I'm like, oh no, he killed her.
The female that this witness mentions is never explained, nor are we aware of any charges pressed against a second individual for this case. Rumors shared on social media detail that Kashawn may have cheated on Leah, and that action prompted the breakup, but those claims are unsubstantiated. Considering this witness was primarily listening through her doorway, it is possible she was hearing Kashawn's panicked voice as he uses falsetto and reaches a considerably higher pitch.
And then he knocked on my door. And he said, happy. And I was like, all I saw was a black Charger. And he said, that's my car. He was like, I came and she wouldn't let me in. She told me to leave. I left. He was like, so, he said, so I thought somebody here did it. I said, no, you didn't think nobody did it. So that's why I called the police.
Okay.
Because I said, I see he's trying to flip it. I just called my
Had you call the police prior to him knocking on your door?
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
In the video we obtained, Kashawn never implies that a neighbor might be responsible, nor did he mention talking to the downstairs neighbor after supposedly discovering Leah's body.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This tight. You see that?
What the heck had handcuffs?
Bro, I'm trying to tell you, bro. Right, I didn't do that shit, my.
Hey, no,
Y'all finna have me sitting in the cell and shit, bro?
don't worry about it. They know. They're gonna talk to you about what
Okay, bro.
you saw.
Okay, bro.
Okay.
According to news reports, investigators found more details surrounding the 911 calls. The first call revealed further suspicion of Kashawn's actions. Allegedly, before Kashawn called 911, he called a friend and shared that Leah had been shot at her apartment. Kashawn told officers this information on scene. However, his friend revealed Kashawn left out the bit of information where he allegedly admitted to shooting Leah, which is what prompted the friend to make the first 911 call. Investigators interviewed others who were close to Kashawn and Leah and found that Kashawn was apparently very possessive of her. The pair held a very rocky relationship, as alluded by Kashawn himself on scene. Other close friends shared that Kashawn had threatened to kill Leah last fall, and he allegedly purchased a gun in order to do so. News reports indicated Leah had 8 gunshot wounds in total, matching Kashawn's story that he heard 8 gunshots. Sadly, investigations also discovered that Kashawn and Leah knew of each other since 3rd grade. After his arrest, Kashawn was charged with first-degree murder, with modifiers for using a dangerous weapon and for domestic abuse. This is the only criminal charge we could find in Kashawn's records. Roughly 2 weeks later, he entered a plea of not guilty. The court set a $250,000 cash bond that Kashawn never posted. In February of 2023, almost 8 months after Leah's killing, a jury unanimously found Kashawn guilty at trial. In March, he was sentenced to life in prison, confining him for at least 35 years after Leah's death until April of 2057, when he will be 55 25 years old. Violations during his prison sentence can extend his total stay by up to 40 days for each infraction. He may petition for extended supervised release after his prison sentence is complete.
What's going on, guys? Today we have a sad, tragic case out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 19-year-old woman loses her life at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. Most cops can see that this guy is guilty. As soon as they see this guy, he says he called the police. Okay, he probably did. What does he do? He raises his hands and says, "Oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything." That's a big sign right there. The second thing he did is he said 8 shots were heard. Let me tell you something. I've been shot at before. One thing I'm not doing is I'm not counting the shots. I'm trying to live. The third thing he did is he tries to muster up some fake tears to see if anybody's buying this. You know, those tears are so fake. That's another story. Okay? He tries to sit there and talk, and the cop is just going to let him talk because what do these criminals do? They incriminate themselves, you know, because they're not too smart. So the cop did the right thing by taking him to the squad car, let him keep talking, and what does he say? First, in the beginning, he says it's his girlfriend. Then he says it's his ex-girlfriend. We know now it was his ex-girlfriend. I believe he came over there, in my opinion, uninvited, right? And then the conversation probably went left. He didn't like where it was going. So what does he do? He takes out a gun and ends this young lady's life because you can't take no for an answer. Okay? And what this guy get? He got life, right? And after 35 years, he can petition, he's eligible to petition for extended supervision, so possibly could be on the street one day. It's ridiculous, man, you know? These domestics, man, can end so bad, so bad. So you have to pay attention to these red flags, because a lot of times you see them, but you ignore them. You can't do that, all right? So tragic. My condolences go out to the family.
A 2021 study by the Bureau of Justice Statistics shares that of the nearly 5,000 female victims of murder and non-negligent manslaughter that year, 34% were killed by an intimate partner. By comparison, of the nearly 18,000 male murder victims, only 6% were killed by a domestic partner, making women 5 times more likely to be killed by their partner, while men are more likely to be killed by a stranger or non-family acquaintance. Using this data, of the nearly 23,000 murders that year, roughly 2,768 or 12% of all murders and non-negligent manslaughter were committed by an intimate partner of the victim. If you or someone you know in the Milwaukee area is a victim of domestic abuse, resources for help are available at the Sojourner Family Peace Center. For everywhere else in the United States, you can reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE.
In the sense of being a deputy, with her doing this, what are your thoughts?
You can't be drunk, piss in ice buckets, yell at security, piss in ice buckets, stand up your security guard.
You can go home, just not in the current condition, driving and such.
Come to the back of the car. Are you serious, Sarge? Really? You see how you're driving? Lieutenant Bennett, this is Bravo.
Police work is hard, it's stressful, and it's unpredictable. But what happens when those hired to protect and serve fall short and their bad behavior is caught on body cam? We're breaking down 5 moments of law enforcement officers finding themselves on the wrong side of justice. Welcome to After Hours, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sam Goldberg. We begin today's episode in St. Petersburg, Florida, where officers have initiated a traffic stop on a speeding driver around 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. Instead of the driver identifying herself to the officer, she disclosed her employment.
Is your driver's license registration for insurance? I'm from County Deputy. Okay. And my driver's license. Huh? I'm a Pinellas County Deputy. Okay. Do you have your license registration? Mm-hmm. No? You don't? Do you have your ID on you? Do you have any weapons on you? No. Okay. Well, I'm a deputy. That's why I'm asking. Do you have any weapons on you? I live right there. Okay. I live normally, but... Do you have some kind of ID or anything on you? My ID is not here, but I'm a Pinellas County deputy. Okay. Do you have some kind of idea? I would just drive it. That way I drop my phone off and then I would this way because I live right there. I get that.
When I think of 10-gun games, I think of the funny-looking NES carts they did back in the day. But did you know that they actually published 24 games for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive? No, that's crazy, right? And in today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at these 24 games and ranking them worst to best. I'm doing it a little bit differently today. If you want to do it yourself, there'll be a link below as well. And so, in today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at these games, giving you my thoughts, showing some gameplay, and giving them the letter grade. Also, I'm going to be doing a separate video with GoMark published games, and so rest assured I'm going to be covering many of the game companies for the Sega Genesis. I'm having a lot of fun doing these. So let's jump in. Here we go. Haven't heard of Awesome Possum? Not missing much. This is their attempt at doing kind of a witty, edgy mascot, and it just doesn't work. Sloppy control, bad frame rate. You know, this is just a poor attempt at trying to be a rip-off Sonic, and it is just bad. One of the worst platformers, I think, on the Sega Genesis. It ends with these trivia questions that many people may not be able to answer. It's an F. Next up is a forgettable tennis game, and it's Davis Cup Tennis. And, you know, it's got some options. It's just kind of your straight-up tennis game, 1 or 2 players. I felt that serving was a little difficult. You know, overall, the best thing about this game is the sound has some nice voice sampling. But overall, I think there's some better tennis games on the Sega Genesis. This is not kind of a top tier one. I even like Jennifer Capriati tennis better. This is a D. Tengen did release a lot of Atari's arcade hits to the home consoles, and this is Pit Fighter. How does it fare? Well, I don't like this game that much, especially the home port. I had happy memories playing it in the arcades at Viking Skate Country, but I don't think this is a good sport. The characters are small, the control is sloppy. This is better than the Super Nintendo game, which is actually one of the worst games on that console's library. I don't like it. I don't think it has great controls, limited character selection, and this is a D for me. Next up is a below average baseball game, that's RBI Baseball 3. I like the original NES releases, but this one just falls short due to the heavy competition on the Sega Genesis. I would rather play several other baseball games, uninspired graphics, and while it has classic RBI sound effects, I really dislike the music. This one is below average, D for me. Steel Talons was another arcade port, and I really wanted to like this game. But looking at that frame rate, it's nearly unplayable. Now, I didn't play it a ton in the arcades, I did experience it, but, you know, this is just trying to push the Genesis hardware too much. You know, early 3D polygon style games, you know, were either make or break, especially on 16-bit consoles. This is a D for me. Play the arcade version instead. Here's the ranking so far, and don't worry, it gets better from here. No hard driving gets some hate, but I actually enjoyed playing this game. It still has frame rate issues, but I do believe it's better than Steel Talons. This is kind of a fun sim racing game on the Genesis, and fans of the arcade may want to check this out, as it brought back many memories of me playing this game at Round Table Pizza. Overall, I think it could have been better, but I'm going to give this a C, and it's worth going back to play. As a huge classic Pac-Man fan, Pac-Mania to me is just okay. I don't think it's as good as the original Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man, and I think this port is just okay. You know, really trying to spice up kind of classic Pac-Man gameplay with a jump feature. You also have a boost, which can speed up Pac-Man. is not a bad game. I would just rather play other Pac-Man games, and so average C for me. I think Paperboy would be probably one of the bigger titles that people remember Atari making. And how does this Genesis port fare? Just okay. A little touchy controls. I didn't like the sound. The sound definitely just is a little off. But is it a bad game? No. I like this game. A little bit challenging though with that control. And I'm just going to give this a C. Luckily, there was a sequel which was better. A lot of people are going to like race driving over hard driving as they improved frame rate and offered a lot more options, even making your own tracks. My issue is I think it runs a little too fast, and so the control is definitely a little bit more challenging with the sequel. Now, it's not a bad game. I like these types of racing sims, but for me, I actually enjoyed the control of hard driving over race driving, even though this offers a lot more features. This one's a little bit more glitchy as well, and unfortunately, I'm just going to give it a C, the same grade as hard driving, but some may give it a higher grade. Tengen followed up RBI 3 with the inspiring title RBI Baseball 4. This does offer way better graphics and animation. I enjoyed playing this game. Is it a top-tier baseball game for the Sega Genesis? No, but it does have real players and teams. It has a home run derby. I think at the end of the day, this is an average baseball game and a C. If you like RBI Baseball 4, then you'll know exactly what you'll be getting with RBI Baseball 93. They decided to go with a different title and rather confusing, but you know, this again is just really a roster update of the previous year, and so many companies did this. I don't like the music. It's still just an average baseball game and a C for me. Here's the ranking so far, and it gets better from here. Upcoming are some of the better games Tengen released for the Genesis. Dragon's Revenge is a follow-up to Dragon's Fury, and it's a good pinball video game. I like these. You might be a fan of these. And it's definitely one of the better ones on the Genesis. It's not as good as Dragon's Fury, which is a remake of Devil's Crush, the TurboGrafx game that everybody loves. And so I like this. It's got a lot of cool features. I like the boards. I like the sound. There's hidden secrets in it, and the bonus rounds are interesting. I'm going to give this a B. With its classic catchphrase, Blahhh is actually an above-average puzzle game that was an arcade game and ported to the Genesis, and I like the Genesis port. It does a good job, great two-player fun, in which you're catching tiles and trying to stack them in order, up, across, or diagonal, in matching free kind of puzzle-style game. This works for me. I would rather play Columns or Tetris, but Blahhh is a nice B-tier option and a solid B for me. Paperboy 2 is a sequel done right, improving upon many of the shortcomings of the original Paperboy release on the Genesis. Better graphics, better gameplay. You now have to deliver papers on both sides of the street. You end each course with kind of a BMX style dirt track in which you're throwing newspapers through hoops. This is a B, and I definitely recommend it over the original. Another Atari Games faithful port home, and that's Rampart. You're fortifying your castles to fend off enemies coming from the sea. I really like this game, and it's kind of a real-time strategy game. It's 1 or 2 players. Things can get pretty intense as you progress in this game, and this one often gets overlooked as an Atari Games classic, but I highly recommend it if you haven't checked out Rampart. The Genesis version is solid. I have a lot of happy memories of playing this in the arcades. A solid port, and definitely a B for me. RBI Baseball 94 is the one Tengen got right. For baseball games, they took, I think, some feedback from fans and made a better baseball game. This one has better graphics and animation. It has updated roster. But I found myself really enjoying this version of RBI. And, you know, while I'm going to play other baseball games on the Genesis over this, I think if you're going to pick an RBI baseball, this is the best one. It is the latest one that they released. You even got a fan wave there. That's cool. This is the B, and I think this is going to be the one you're going to appreciate the most. Now we're getting to the good ones. But here are the games I've ranked so far. Upcoming are some of the best that Tengen made for the Sega Genesis. Dragon's Fury, in my opinion, is the best pinball game on the Sega Genesis, and this is kind of a remake of Devil's Crush. Oh boy, I love everything about it. It's got great ball physics, graphics, sound, gameplay's tight. Really like what they did in this game, and it just is a perfect example of how to do a pinball game on a console. Highly recommend it, and it's a solid A for me. I love myself some shooters, and Grindstormer is one of the better ones for the Sega Genesis. Now, I like what they did with this. It is an arcade port, and even though it's not as good as the arcade, I thought it was a decent job done on the Sega Genesis. Fast gameplay, I like the enemies. The only thing I probably do not prefer is the color palette is a little bit weird, but other than that, I think this control's great. It's got cool power-ups. I like the different varying levels that this offers. This is a solid A for me, and I think you'll like it for a Genesis shooter. Take the original arcade classic and update it, and you got Ms. Pac-Man, and they did a fantastic job with this port, offering lots of different things. A 2-player co-op mode, awesome. There's a boost mode. It kind of reminds me of Pac-Man Plus a little bit with gameplay. You can turn that on and off. I really like what they did. The graphics have been updated for that kind of 16-bit polish. I think this is an amazing port of Ms. Pac-Man, and it's a solid A for me. I've talked about it before. Definitely worth checking out. I can't believe how good the Prince of Persia port is for the Sega Genesis. Now, this was a late 80s PC hit, and how does it fare on the Sega Genesis? Awesome! I really like what they did here. It's got great graphics. And, you know, this type of game, it's going to take a little bit to figure out the control. There's a lot of strategy on where to go, what actions to utilize. You're going to die quite a bit, but I think this is an awesome port, and one that often gets overlooked and not discussed a lot, as, you know, Tengen was kind of known for publishing other games, but this is great. I really like what they did here, and I definitely recommend going back and checking it out. Solid A for me. There were 2 arcade ports that we didn't get here in the States, and the first one is Slap Fight. And the best way to describe Slap Fight is if Gradius and Xevious had a baby, and it is a combination of those 2 types of arcade games, a little bit more like Xevious, but it has an upgrade system a lot like Gradius. And so I like this game, top-down vertical shooter, and, you know, it's got great graphics and sound. Solid A for me, and definitely one to check out. I don't know about you, but I didn't know for a long time that there was a Snow Brothers port for the Mega Drive, and we didn't get here in the States, but I love this game. Fast and furious gameplay, 2-player co-op. You know, there's a lot of these games, kind of bubble style gameplay, but I really enjoy these games as kind of a break from kind of your usual action adventure game or shooter, and, you know, this is well done. Unfortunately, we didn't get it here, but you can emulate it, play it any way you want. Solid A, well worth checking out. Here are 22 of the 24 games so far, and what's left? The S tier, the legendary S tier, one that I don't give out too much unless I really like it, and highly recommend these next 2 games. Gauntlet 4 is amazing, great gameplay, graphics, sound. It's a perfect game to be on the Sega Genesis. 4-player support, everything you would want from the arcade. It's even got additional modes. There's a quest mode, which is a lot of fun. This is often overlooked too. One of my favorite games on the Sega Genesis. If you haven't played this version and you like Gauntlet, look no further. I highly recommend this. It looks like the arcade, plays like the arcade, but you're playing it on a Sega Genesis. I love this port. This is an amazing game. 90 levels, solid S for me. I have and will always love this game. Played the arcade, and the Genesis port is awesome. Played this on the Nomad even. Well done graphics and has that arcade feel. And so this is a great port of the legendary arcade game and one I love. And look no further, if you like the arcade game, check this out. As it's a brilliant port. I think they did a great job. The control takes a little bit to get used to, but it is touchy, but I still love it. It's still one of my favorites on the Sega Genesis NS. I want to thank everybody for watching this video. What did you think? Like the new format? Comment below, and as always, thank you for watching my videos. Tengen had some awesome games. I wanted to share my thoughts about these, as some of them are my favorite on the console. So what was your favorite? Do you have any stories connected to these games? I also want to hear about that. And if you're watching and you haven't subscribed yet, you may want to consider that. I'm uploading videos every week. Had a lot of fun with this one. This one was involved and took quite a bit of time, but I appreciate the positive comments. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you have a good day.
And you got John Riggs here, ranking games from THQ for the NES. They made 13 of them, and are they any good? Well, we'll find out. Spoiler alert, yikes. Starting off with Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which features a pretty cool 8-bit chiptune rendition of the classic Attack of the Killer Tomatoes song. Check this out. I mean, the game's kind of interesting enough, and you'll notice a lot of these THQ games kind of look like this a little bit in a way. The fact that it makes a sound for every step you take. I can understand a sound for stopping in your tracks. I can definitely understand a sound for jumping, but there's a sound for every time you walk, every time you take a step, it makes this sound. And that can get pretty annoying pretty quickly. You actually almost get used to it. It happens all the time, you know. Different variations of tomatoes. You basically just have to step on them, just jump on them before they jump on you, before they hit you or something like that. I mean, I don't know. It features a few interesting kinds of things that keep you want to keep playing, even though you know the game isn't that great to begin with, but it's not terrible. I mean, it has that suck you in factor of like, I gotta get past this part. I at least gotta get past this part, right? That happens a lot with this game. Like right off the bat, right in this first level, you have to like go in the sewers and go through the mazes and you have to backtrack sometimes. I have to go up and down these corridors and stuff like that. You get lost pretty easily. The boss battles, I mean, they can be fun in this game, but still the game as a whole, on one hand, it's a little yikesy. On the other hand, it makes me want to keep playing this game. So for that, I'm going to give it a C. Because we're kind of going alphabetical, the next one is The Great Waldo Search. Now, there is a Where's Waldo game by THQ. We'll cover that later on in this video. Wait till if you've never seen Where's Waldo for the NES, so I can't wait to show you. This one, however, is, let's be honest, the better one. Now, I don't think anybody was more of a Where's Waldo fan of the book series than I was in the 90s. I loved those books. I loved them so much. And of course, yes, once you find Waldo, then you can always kind of spot about where he is, so you can go back to it. Not a whole lot of rereadability factor. However, in the back of the book, it also has the, like, hey, on this first page, find all these other crazy random things that are happening in this giant mess of chaos of these pages. And that was actually kind of fun. This game, however, I mean, with the bigger sprites, and, I mean, Waldo usually sticks out like a sore thumb in these just because of his color palette and all that. But still, I mean, how fast can you find them in the time allotted? Don't worry about the time, because you'll find clocks everywhere. Now, in the Great Waldo Search, you gotta find not only Waldo, but you also gotta find the scroll. And yes, your dog is in there too. If you click on the dog, you'll do a little bonus round, get some bonus points if that's your thing. I mean, you don't have to do that to complete the game, but it's available to you. There are a few worlds that you can find Waldo in, and there's also a couple levels of difficulty. Now, of course, there's the easy one, stands out a little bit more. Go to the expert level, he'll kind of stand behind some of the characters, but still, he stands out pretty quickly. I liked the fact, however, in this game, they included one of my favorite pages of any of the Where's Waldo books, where they're all Waldo, with the land of Waldos, but one of them's missing a shoe, so you gotta find the Waldo with the missing shoe. And I thought that was cool that they included that in this game.
in this game. I said it right. And on top of that, every once in a while the screen will freeze. It'll be like, oh, before you can move on, you gotta find this other really weird thing. Yeah, you click on it and you move on. So it's kind of cool that they throw in a couple of those features too. Again, not the best game, but it's again, it's better than the other one. Wait till you see the other one, but at least this one, I'm actually gonna give it a C. Well, we have Home Alone, and this game did come out for the Super Nintendo, and this was during a time, and props to THQ, I gotta say up front, props to THQ for releasing games on the Super Nintendo as well as the regular NES, because not everyone had a Super Nintendo maybe at this time. So they're releasing the same game on both systems, or at least the same title on both systems. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But with Home Alone, it's basically the same game on both systems. Super Nintendo, this one's the NES one. Of course, it's gonna have the diminished graphics and all that. But plays kind of the same. And when I say plays kind of the same, I mean they're both terrible, really. When it gets down to it. And this one even worse, because you pick up these items that you can use to thwart the enemies, and no matter what it is, whether it be Hot Wheels cars, or jacks, or marbles, or a light bulb, or anything, they always react the same way. They just fall over. They just fall over and get knocked out for a moment, which will help you kind of escape. No matter what it is, it's the same reaction, right? And this game, it's just, that's all it is. And it's not, I mean, it's kind of not fun. Like, it's kind of like, okay, I get it, but okay, it's, I mean, no. The answer is no. The answer is this game is an F. And same thing with Home Alone 2. Now, Home Alone 2, I think, is a better game. It has a little bit more involvement with this game, too. So it actually goes through the levels, linear levels here. You go through, you can like run and slide on your knees just like you can in the movie and everything. Other kind of items that you can pick up and use. But the game, I mean, just the enemies are weird, like the suitcases on the first level, the old ladies jumping around and all that. I mean, it's a pretty loony game to begin with in the first place. And a lot of it just involves jumping and stuff like that too. And this game also, for some reason, along with these other THQ games, maybe it's the same sound designer, I'm not sure, but borrows a lot of the same sound effects as Bart Simpson versus the Space Mutants, which was interesting enough. And curious that they made you orange in this game to, I guess, really pronounce your blonde hair. I'm not sure. He could have been blonde with blonde. But I don't know, man. I mean, he is in the world of 80s Crayola crayons, he is a burnt sienna. And this game can be kind of confusing too, because like at the end of the first level, you have to keep tapping the elevator button until the elevator shows up. And it doesn't really tell you to do that. You just kind of have to figure it out, I guess, right? Yeah, just like Adam Krolik, figure it out. Home Alone 2 for the NES. Pretty terrible game, but better than Home Alone, so at least I'll give it a D. Oh, good lord, we're off to a swimming start. Can we climb from here? I guess we'll find out. And if you're already digging this style of video, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't done so already. It increases your chances of the next video showing up on your homepage. Don't want you to miss out. Well, I would say that, but then we're talking about James Bond Jr. for the NES. Man, I wish I would have missed out on this game. No, James Bond Jr. For the Super Nintendo, it's actually kind of fun. I actually kind of enjoyed James Bond Jr. for the Super Nintendo. This one, not the same. Ooh, how can I put it lightly? It feels like a game from Ocean. Well, it was in fact developed by Eurocom, which is a European company. That's why this game just looks European. And I've said that before about a couple of other NES games in the past. But man, if you know that European look, this is right up there. And I just wish it was better. It could have been, but there's so much just random jumping and random shooting, and it just makes it hard to play, hard to look at. I think it's mostly this introduction level. Like if the first level is just a linear, not too much worry, just go through the platform, go through the stage and all that, but it starts you off in this giant kind of like underthing maze where you have to like jump on these trampolines at the right point at the right time and move at the right point at the right time and all that. Terrible first impression. It's one of the worst first impressions of a Nintendo game ever. And it's also, I don't know if I'd put it as one of the worst Nintendo games ever, but I am going to put it as an F. Foxes, Peter Pan and the Pirates. Now, just like they're making that new Little Nemo game, just like Frankenstein, King Kong, Dracula, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan is royalty free. Anybody can make a Peter Pan game in their own vision. And Fox had the Peter Pan and the Pirates cartoon, which I remember kind of liking. I at least watched it. I think it was because it was on Fox, so I watched anything. In my town, Fox was my channel 3, so to play Nintendo games, it was always on channel 3, so channel 3, Fox was my default channel. I watched everything. And if I wasn't watching something, I was playing something. And in this case, I'd be playing Peter Pan and the Pirates. Not sure why. It's not a great game. Now, you play as a kind of... Well, you don't have enough sprite base for your character, I think. I think they could have made it a little bit taller, at least to begin with. But you play as Peter Pan as you fight off these pirates. You can float. You have this little flying power. You got your Tinkerbell magic dust or whatever that does disappear after a while, after you use it for a while, but you can always get more later on too. And it basically just makes you float. Doesn't really make you fly. Just makes you float. It works. The attacking's off. The hit detection is off. Even some of the platforming elements and some of the how to get to where you need to go stuff, not great. It is another game. Man, I wish it was better. I had high hopes for this game. Not sure why, but it's a terrible game. I'm also giving this game an F. Can you believe it? The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Where do you think this would lay on this tier list? Do you have any guesses already? Well, we'll find out if you're right. Now, I grew up watching The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle on Saturday mornings. And when I say I grew up with Rocky and Bullwinkle, I meant I grew up with its reruns. And when I say Saturday morning, I mean it was one of those cartoons that would come out at like 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., super early, you know, before the actual good cartoon lineup of modern time of the 80s anyway. But I really, really did like The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. The cartoon, I love the variety, love the comedy, love the writing. I honestly think it was a cartoon for adults, but of course the cartoons, so kids would watch it too. The video game, however, is not made for anyone. Adults or children. It's a terrible game. As Bullwinkle, you can ram people with your antlers, and you can also pick up these bombs and throw them as a weapon if that's easier for you, but it's just easier to ram into enemies for the most part. Nice colors, nice sprites, looks like the cartoon in a way, but again, not a great game at all. And not just because the music gets on your nerves really quickly, it's just a terrible game. And if maybe you guessed it right, and if so, congratulations, I also gave this game an F. If you're collecting NES games, you're buying games now, Swamp Thing goes for a pretty penny. I bought this game for $2.99 in about 2001 at a Software Etc. that was liquidating all of their NES games. I paid $2.99 for it. It's worth less than that. Never mind what it goes for on eBay. Terrible game. No, I like the idea of Swamp Thing. I like what Swamp Thing is. I like the creature. I like the lore. I kind of like the backstory. You know, with the stuff that gets on him, and then like the rejuvenation stuff that gets on him, and then to put out the fire, he jumps in the swamp, and then he gets the swamp stuff on him, and that kind of fuses to his whatever it is. Becomes Swamp Thing. Cool idea. I remember watching the movie in the '80s, and I don't remember much about it, but I remember enjoying it at least. The game could have been great. It really could have been. But it just kind of had that kind of slow, sluggish, you walk around, which makes sense for Swamp Thing, right? But then he punches enemies, and it's not great, and the hit detection's off. I mean, it does have these kind of cutscenes that are a little bit more comic book style. Could have been better. It could have been a lot better. I'm also giving this game an F. Good lord. Well, we have 5 games left on this list. Hopefully it'll bring us back to salvation here. We'll see. We got the Ren and Stimpy, the Buckaroos. Now, you had to have been from the time, and just before the time, to understand how iconic Ren and Stimpy truly was in the early 90s. Because growing up, the cartoons we had were very do the right thing. You know, I mean, a lot of our cartoons had morals at the end of the episodes and stuff like that. And then here comes Ren and Stimpy out of nowhere and surprised everyone with its crazy off-the-wall antics. You know, somewhere between Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead, we're like, okay, cartoons can be cool too for the older generation. Because there was a time there where even, you know, as kids were growing up, they're like, I'm not going to watch cartoons anymore. I'm a grown kid. This was letting you know it's okay. If cartoons can have a lot of value, even no matter how old you get. Ren and Stimpy, one of the best, for sure, especially for its time. The game itself isn't terrible. I mean, now they made like 4 games on the Super Nintendo, and I covered those in the Super Nintendo THQ ranking video. Only made one of them for the NES, and this one's the Buckaroos one. This one's, I mean, kind of interesting. It has a little bit of platforming, a little bit of platforming. It also has some shooting stages too, where there's a little bit of shooter. So a little variety to get you going through this Ren and Stimpy game. I mean, of course, the Super Nintendo version is better than the NES one, but the NES one is not bad. I mean, it's another one of those, I think both games came out at the same time, so it could accommodate both viewers or both players, depending on if you had a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo. Worked out pretty good. It's not a great game, but it's worth checking out. I'll at least give this one a D. Videomation was the thing that nobody asked for. But for some reason, it got the Nintendo seal of approval. Now, the NES did not have a mouse. It was during a time when, maybe home PCs were starting to become kind of a thing. I mean, it was like the early 90s, so, I mean, we weren't quite there yet. But maybe with other applications like a Mario Paint or something like that, or, like the little painting things that you do at school to learn how to use a mouse and all that. Pretty fun. But this is like a painting type device for your NES, and again, wasn't needed, nobody asked for it. I mean, apparently somebody bought it because you see some sometimes at conventions, but I mean, like why? It's called Videomation, and there's a couple of animated things you can do, like so you can kind of paint the scenery, and then have the baby crawling, or the car driving, or the girl skipping, or, I mean, pass. It's an F. THQ for the NES had one sports game, and it's Wayne Gretzky Hockey. Now, if you're going to have a hockey game, if you're making a hockey game, Wayne Gretzky's the top name, right? It has to be, especially in the 90s. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, it had to be. So if you're going to make a hockey game with a celebrity endorsement, it has to be Wayne Gretzky. And the game itself, man, I wish it was better. It's not terrible. Well, it's not, okay, I'll correct myself without correcting myself. It's not terrible. There are so many other better hockey games on the NES. Between Blades of Steel, Ice Hockey, Hit the Ice. I mean, Pro Sport Hockey is a great one as well. In fact, literally every hockey game on the NES is better than this one. And this is the one that carries Wayne Gretzky's name. Well, again, not a terrible game, and maybe it plays a little bit more realistic. Maybe it actually flows a little bit more realistic than the other games. But when I'm playing a Nintendo game, for the most part, I don't want realistic. I want just crazy, I want like the video game hockey. Might be worth checking out for you, though. I will give this one a D. Oh man, I remember when Saturday Night Live was good. Wayne's World was right around that time when it was definitely worth watching. I was a big fan of Wayne's World. It was one of my favorite skits from Saturday Night Live. Couldn't wait for it. And both movies actually weren't bad either. Now they had two games. They had the Nintendo game and the Super Nintendo game, both of them different. The NES game, because we're talking about NES games here, it was really terrible. It's one of those late release NES games, so there's, like limited print run on these things, a little harder to find. Man, you have to really want to collect a full set to actually want to own a physical copy of Wayne's World. I used to have a copy of it too. Man, I'm glad I sold it. So you play as both. You start off with Garth, who goes through, at least the first stage, I'll show you the first stage on this one, goes through the music store, and you have your ray gun, because why not? And that's how you get through it. That's how you defeat the enemies and move on to the next stage. And then you play as Wayne. You figure Wayne's World, you'd start off with Wayne, but what are you gonna do? So then you play as Wayne, and you do like a sidekick. Like you just give everyone sweet chin music on the way through. I thought that was pretty interesting, but whatever. And again, they're going for the more realistic look in this one. Now the Super Nintendo one looks kind of like how they kind of cartoony-ized characters with the digitized faces. This one, man, I don't know. They're trying too hard, I think, or maybe not trying hard enough, or didn't even need to try at all. But it came out in an NES game. They have a way game. It exists. It's real. There it is, and it's pretty terrible. And but there's still that little element that makes you want to keep playing because it's Wayne's World. Like, what's the next level gonna be? What's gonna happen next? It's a terrible game. I'm gonna give it a D. Do we finally get to talk about Where's Waldo, the original one, the first one for the NES? Oh, man. I can't wait. First of all, shout out to the box art. I love the box art in this because the box art is a Where's Waldo puzzle. Can you find him? I'll zoom it in right about now. Congrats if you spotted him. So when it first starts and you see Waldo kind of going to the next stage, walking through, little song, little jaunty number there. So you figure that's about what Waldo's going to look like when you get to that stage. Super wrong. You gotta find Waldo in this. Somewhere on this screen is Waldo. Yeah, it has that kind of chaos of those Where's Waldo books. There's something happening all the time. And also the other, like, you know, the little random hats, little random, you know, striped things to get your eyes off, you know, off focus or whatever. Gotta find Waldo. You know, and there he is. Okay, that kind of makes sense. And there's even like some different stages too, like where it's all dark and you have to find him in the dark, but your cursor will show up when he's running by. You have to just hit the button as soon as you can and move on from there. You know, other stages are just like those Where's Waldo books. You gotta find Waldo in this one. Gotta find him somewhere over here. You know, somewhere in the circus, somewhere in the city. And you find him here? Interesting. And then there's the subway, which I thought was kind of fun because you have to like kind of do this puzzle along the way. Go from one side to the other. You know, there's this creep kind of chasing after you. But you have to like move these tile pieces around so you'll actually, you know, spin around and leave through the exit. That's actually kind of fun. I kind of like that kind of puzzle. You got them at the castle, little medieval stage, and then you have the rocket thing, which is a slot machine style deal where you have to hit the button and land on Waldo all 3 times. And once you do that, then you beat the game. Congratulations. So anyway, that's the easy mode. The hard mode is where it gets, let's call it, impossible. Because Waldo no longer becomes Waldo of who you're looking for. And I'm not kidding. Waldo is red and white striped shirt, got the red and white beanie, jeans, blue jeans, you know, maybe the brown shoes, the cane. And look at this. This is on the harder difficulty level. So first of all, you get 2 screens to scroll back and forth from. 2 screens to scroll back and forth. Can you find Waldo in this scene? Can you find him? Can you find him? And sometimes there are people who look like Waldo, but it's totally not Waldo. And it's like, really? Now in this screen, in particular, okay, yeah, that's Waldo, sure. I'll take that, right? But then this screen, where you're like, okay, gotta find Waldo here, looking for a red and white striped shirt, looking for the beanie, the leather shoes, the cane, you know, maybe the blue jeans. Can't find him anywhere. I can go through every individual character, can't find him anywhere. Look at this. It's hard to tell because it's all zoomed in, but this character here is Waldo, according to this game. Oh, what fun. Let's go to the circus. Let's see if we can find Waldo at the circus. Again, red and white striped shirt, red and white beanie, blue jeans, leather shoes, brown shoes. But in this one, he happens to be wearing green. Nobody said that he's going to be wearing a green and white striped shirt. But once again, there's Waldo. How are you supposed to know this? I want to give this game an F so bad. I really do. However, I keep finding myself coming back to it just because it's ridiculous. It's the super ridiculous game that I keep coming back to. And this game, I'm going to give it a D because I keep coming back to it. And I should point out, too, that Waldo moves around every time you play it. So he's never going to be in the same place twice. You know, it might be like 1 of 5 or 1 of 6 places he may be anytime you play the game, maybe any given time. One of the times in this city, he's actually like in the back of a truck, which I thought was pretty funny. But if you can find Waldo here, good on you. Yeah, that's not even close to being Waldo, but according to this game, that's him. Well, it's not the best showing for any Nintendo company, to say the least, but thank you for watching all the same. I also did rate the THQ Super Nintendo games. Make sure you check those out as well. I've rated so many other games too, so make sure you check out the whole playlist of them. I've been doing them for about a year now. Can you believe that? We're actually almost out of Nintendo games to rate. Gonna be moving on to Super Nintendo, Genesis, whatever I can get my hands on anyway. Got some more videos coming. We'll see you soon. Feeling you got John Riggs here at your service, taking a look at some great games from LJN. I can't even say that with a straight face. There were 26 games from LJN on the NES. I'm going to look at all of them and rank them in this video. Right up front, I'm here to tell you that not all LJN games are terrible games. But I'm also here to tell you that I don't think any of these games will make the S tier, as we'll find out. Starting off with Alien 3, which wasn't a terrible game. I thought like the background graphics were really good. I actually quite enjoyed this game on the Super Nintendo. However, it breaks that cardinal rule for me for NES gameplay, where the jump button and the attack button are swapped. In this game, B button jumps, A button fires. The A button should always be jump always. It's not terrible, but it's still pretty terrible. I'll put it as a C tier. Back to the Future, oh my goodness. I'm not exactly sure what I can say about this game. I try to look for the positive in everything I do in life. I try to look for the positive in every video game I play. And oddly enough, I actually played this game quite a bit. I don't know if it's because it was just the game I was playing for the moment, or I just had to see what was going on. I was such a big fan of the movie that I wanted to get past those stages to see what other parts of the movie were involved. But really, you're just collecting clocks. And it's like, I mean, oh, this game. I mean, I can't put this game over. It's a D tier. It would be an F tier, only I've played it multiple times. And I still kind of come back to it just to remember. You know, there are some games I'll never play ever again. But this game, I still come back to it sometimes. I'm going to put it as a D tier, believe it or not. Back to the Future 2 and 3, though, which should have been a way better game. You're actually in the future right now, maybe? But I can't figure out what's going on. I can't figure out what I'm doing. Yeah, it looks a little bit better, and maybe controls a little bit more like a platformer, which I enjoy. And you have these bootleg lackitudes, which are hilarious. And the weirdest thing ever is you can actually jump on them. That's, those spikes, they shouldn't allow that. But still, yeah, no. This game, I will put as an F tier. Beetlejuice, F tier, straight up. Oh my goodness. This, I love the movie. You have no idea how much I love the movie. And this was the representation of the video game version. Now, I can understand not having the Danny Elfman music in there. I understand that. They could have done anything different. Your attack button is a stomp. It's not even a kick, it's a stomp. And the controls are super loosey-goosey. No, it's upset. Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure. Now, I remember seeing this in magazines. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. I remember seeing like this like Nintendo Power. And like all over the world, and you go to like different time eras and all that. Yeah, that's gonna be a great game. And no, it wasn't. I'm hovering over the B tier and the F tier on this one. B tier because I still want to like it because you can do some things here. But no, it's yeah, it's F tier. It's not a B tier. Friday the 13th. Now that's not a bad game. Friday the 13th may be the most popular LG. And I think it's actually pretty decent for what it is. You have to figure out how to play it. Because once you get the lighter, you can light the fireplaces, you can get the clues on where, you know, Jason's mom is. There's a lot of running back and forth. You gotta look at the map and see where you're going and all that. It's actually, it's fun, Atlas. LJN was the distributor or whatever, but, you know, Atlas was one who made it. I'm gonna put Friday the 13th as B tier. Not quite B tier, but it's a solid B tier for me. You have Gotcha, which is the Latin game. Before Paintball, it was kind of called Gotcha. I mean, before they called it Paintball, I remember there was a time when, I mean, there's a movie that starred that one guy from Revenge of the Nerds called Gotcha, which is about paintball. And I don't know if this is based on it or loosely based on it. Kind of the same thing. But there's a while there, for about a year, maybe even 6 months, where paintball was called Gotcha. And they had the NES game. And it's not bad. It's kind of cool because you can use your first player controller to move left and right. And then your gun, obviously, fires your paintball. Especially for a light gun game, I'll put it as a C. The incredible crash test dummies, there was a recent video on this from ABD. And I was reminded, I mean, I rented the game for the NES back in the day. And I do remember the toys. I remember there was a cartoon. I remember the PSAs more than anything. I mean, there was like, you know, all the Saturday morning cartoons, everything. I mean, it was everywhere. The whole Don't Be a Dummy thing. There was mascots for a long time. And the game is kind of bad. I'll put the game as I'll put it as a D. It's not super terrible. I mean, it's I don't know. It's a D. Jaws, another game that's not terrible actually. Again, once you figure out how to play it, once you know, there's a lot of you ran into an enemy, and then you have to like dive and clutch shells and stuff like that, and that gets kind of monotonous. But that's how you get your power ups. You can find the trapper eventually. There's a speedrunner who beat this game in like less than 5 minutes or something like that. It's insane. I don't hate this game, but it's not an A. It's a B tier for me. Jaws is B tier. I'm okay with that. It's a game I'll still play today every once in a while. Oof, Karate Kid. Underratedly one of the toughest NES games. I've never been able to beat it without a game. It's weird. I mean, it's the Karate Kid, but it plays based on Karate Kid Part 2. Like, it starts out with the tournament, and then after the tournament part, then you're in Japan. And, you know, you're fighting off anyone with your punches and your kicks. Your crane kicks and your drum punches are power-up. It plays like a typical NES game for the time. And it's not out, it's a C tier for me. Major League Baseball was pretty cool for the time because it actually used licensed teams. Before we had like RBI, we had baseball, and games that use fictional teams. This one I could actually play as the Seattle Mariners. I, to this day, don't know why anyone would want to play the Seattle Mariners, especially when this game came out. 91 Mariners, maybe, you know. And it wouldn't be bad, but you run sluggishly slow, and there is an awkward kind of pause every time you hit the ball. Like it actually has to calculate or something. I don't know. It's weird, and it's an F tier. NFL, like Major League Baseball, you can play as licensed teams. I can play as the Seattle Seahawks, and like Major League Baseball, super slow, and there's that weird loading pause. Like that awkward. It's dumb. And no, it's an F tier. 10-Yard Fight is better than NFL. That's it. A Nightmare on Elm Street is very cool. I like Nightmare on Elm Street quite a bit. It is 4-player. I like that you can, go from house to house and you go into, you have to collect the bones and fight the enemies, which is not bad. It's like a typical kind of platformer. It has that horror element, and a lot of Nintendo games and NES games did not have that horror element, just to keep it completely as PG as possible. So it's kind of creepy, the music's cool. I mean, you can go to the dreamscape and you can use your dream powers and stuff like that, which is always kind of fun to pick up other items too. I don't think it's an A tier though. It's a B though. It's a solid B tier for Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm comfortable with that. Pictionary is the game that shouldn't have as awesome of a soundtrack as it had. The soundtrack for Pictionary should have been in another platformer to make it even better. But instead, it's in Pictionary. I've only played Pictionary as a single player game, which is awkward because Pictionary is all about trying to guess what you drew. So instead of the computer drawing like it does for anticipation, you do these little mini games which will unlock parts of the game kind of puzzle. If you see enough of the picture, you can guess what it is, and maybe you'll get it right, and more often than not, you won't. And Pictionary would be an F. It would be an F tier, but it has an awesome soundtrack, and the mini games aren't bad. Based on the soundtrack alone, it's a C tier. That's very good. If it didn't have the soundtrack, it would be a B. Punisher's not a bad Punisher's not a bad Operation Wolf style game. I like the fact that you can take damage on the boxes, the ground, and stuff like that. You have your gun, you have your grenades. I like how you look completely awesome and the enemies don't in this game. I'll put Punisher as C tier. We have Roger Clemens MVP Baseball. This one, for a baseball game, isn't bad. You would play as the fictional teams, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to get past that. But the awkward angles of this game, like I'm not used to, and maybe it's my own fault, for being with baseball and Major League Baseball and RBI, where everything looks kind of the same. Bases loaded may be a little different. But this game takes it to like a different style, it's almost like a 2D angle. I don't know. It was different and interesting. It plays like a decent baseball game. It's still not good. I'm not putting it as a C tier, but no. We're going to put it as a B tier. Spider-Man and the Return of the Sinister Six. I love Spider-Man. I've always been a fan. I used to have Spider-Man underoos back in the 80s. I love Spider-Man. I do not love this game. It's another game where like the attack and the jump buttons are mixed up. And Spider-Man's supposed to be a Spider-Man game. You're supposed to be able to just, climb on the buildings and swing on your webs and all that. And you can climb buildings in this game, kind of, but the web slinging is just not good. And this game is not good. I want to put it as an F tier, but the fact that it's Spider-Man, I know what people put it as a B tier. But it's also kind of ridiculously not good. I'm sorry to say Spider-Man is not good. Wow. PNC Surf Design was a game I played a ton of. It was during a time with the NES where whatever deals you had, that's what you played. Terrible, not terrible, good, bad. You played everything because it was there. And it was just like, well, I mean, it's either going to be arcade, I can't afford another game, I can't rent it right now. But man, everyone had PNC Surf Design. You didn't have it, you had a friend who had it, you borrowed it. Just because it was something different to play. It was during a time when, skateboarding was cool, surfing. If you're in Washington State, surfing is not really a thing. But skateboarding was cool for the time. And this game had skating and surfing. And I'll put it as a C tier. And then they tried to cut out with PNC Surf Designs, Gorilla, something or other. And I got this thing for a little while when I was collecting NES games. And I couldn't get into it. It was hard to control. It looked kind of cool, but it was, to me, I want to put it as an F tier. So, Terminator 2 could be a lot better. But man, I don't know. It's a B tier. It's playable, but just before I put it as an F tier, it's not terrible. Well, I mean it is. It's actually pretty terrible. It's, I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, right? It would be, I'll put it this way. The Uncanny X-Men to me would be in D tier if I could play it single player. But it forces you to choose a second player. I usually just choose second player as like Nightcrawler, just to run through everything. And still that makes it hard to do. I did beat this game with a game reading once, just to see what happened. And there's no way I could do it by myself. Without it, I think I've gotten like 2 of the 4 key cards or something like that. But it's like, I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it's an F tier. It has to be. Now, I liked Who Framed Roger Rabbit a lot. Like, a lot. Because it had the open world element. You could go anywhere you wanted. You could go inside buildings and search for, dig through trash to find a crowbar or whatever you're doing. I played this game quite a bit, and I liked it a lot. And the end boss is ridiculously tough. There's no reason that the end boss should take that many punches to get to where you're going with that limited time frame too. And so much of me wants to put it as an E tier, but it's not quite an E tier. Me personally, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a solid E. I like this game a lot. And I even like the jokes, like when you get captured and you have to like tell the jokes and all that. I don't know. I have a lot of fun memories playing Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Wolverine, way better than the Uncanny X-Men, but still not great. It's a decent platform. I mean, it could be a decent platform. You move too weird. It's like you're Wolverine, but you're not really in like a Wolverine setting. If that makes sense. This game could have done a lot better. It could have taken place in, there's a lot of things they could have done with this game as well. So I'll put Wolverine in the D tier. We got WWF WrestleMania Challenge. There was a WWF WrestleMania game, and that was fun to play. That wasn't that good. But the WrestleMania Challenge, it was the isometric view was kind of weird. It was a lot better than WrestleMania for sure, but still not great. And to me, it is a D tier. Just because it's more of a fighting game than wrestling game. But then you have the WWF Steel Cage Challenge, which finally has The Undertaker. This is the first time The Undertaker has been on an NES game. And nobody has their finishers. It's just pretty generic. I mean, there's no strength advantage, really. You pick whoever you want it to look like, but it could have just been, player 1 versus player 2. Never mind the looks. So it didn't have the Steel Cage that you could do. So I'll put it in here. WWF King of the Ring. I was a big fan of the WWF King of the Ring idea, like the tournament style. And this featured more of the newer wrestlers, which is good news for me, and still doesn't control great. In fact, this one controls, I like this one less than Steel Cage Challenge. It looks like a better wrestling game. The graphics look a little bit better, has a bigger roster, and it actually has some, strength advantages, speed advantages, depending on who you pick, but it's still pretty terrible. I want to put this game as an F tier, but it's also because I'm a huge wrestling fan. I want to put it as a D tier just because it's something that I would look at every once in a while just to remind myself. And you know what? I'd rather play the other 2 wrestling games than this one. So this one unfortunately goes in the F tier category. John Riggs here today taking a look at games from Color Green as well as Wisdom Tree as well as Bunch Games. You can already tell these are completely unlicensed. Even says on the back, Color Games Incorporated, patent pending, made in Taiwan. So these are just, they're homebrews, right? They're just made by a small team of people, sometimes 1 or 2 people, if that. And they pump them out on the NES. They're able to sell them in some stores anyway. I think Sony stores didn't carry these. And probably for all the right reasons. You're not going to find a seal of quality anywhere on anything like this. Now this one here is from Color Dreams, and we'll talk about this one in the video coming up later on, but there's also Wisdom Tree. Those were the religious version of Color Dreams games, in a way. In fact, these games you can only find in Christian bookstores is where you find those ones. And then Bunch Games, there's a few of those, and it's basically just more Color Dreams without actually calling it Color Dreams. There's no reason for the name change. It's the same game, they even have the same kind of cart and everything. There's over 20 of them, so we're going to look briefly at each one. We're going to rank them along the way. I don't think these will do well on the ranking system, but we're going to have some fun with it all the same. I thank you for watching. In fact, if it's your first time watching, make sure you're subscribed. I do at least 2 videos a week. I'm a huge old school gamer. I like the new stuff too, but I mostly stick with the retro stuff. Starting off with Baby Boomer, not an easy game to find if you're looking to collect. It's one that has eluded me for years and years. And it plays like a shooter. You can actually use the zapper in this game, which is kind of nice. Or if you don't have the zapper, you can also just use the target will show up. You just use the D-pad to shoot what you will. The baby always moves. It's one of those kind of games where the baby is just always moving and you have to shoot the obstacles around it. It's terrible, but it's playable. So I'm giving it a D. Captain Comic is interesting enough. I wanted to like this game. I actually rented this game at a local grocery store when this game came out. And I like the fact that it uses classical music because there's no copyright on classical music. So, I mean, that's something. And I will give it props for the animation of the worm. The worm in this game, the animation I thought was pretty cool. But still, if you step on the worm, it hurts you. That's just no. In this game itself, it's terrible, but it's kind of playable. So I'm also giving it a D. Here's a game called Challenge of the Dragon, which sounds like it'd be a great game. Challenge of the Dragon for the Nintendo? I mean, that sounds like my kind of game. Until you play it. And you realize it's nobody's kind of game. You can't tell if you're hurting the other person or they're hurting you. And the screen moves weirdly. And this game is extremely rough. I'll give it props for the box art. The box art is actually pretty cool. But the game itself, not so much. This game is terrible and is not playable. This game is an F. Crystal Mines, actually Crystal Mines isn't ridiculously terrible. I'm not a huge fan of Boulder Dash, but it plays a little bit like Boulder Dash, a little bit. Because you're in that kind of like underground area and you can shoot some of the dirt out of the way, shoot the boulders out of the way, and you have to just collect all the items so you can move on to the next stage. So if you're a fan of Boulder Dash, it's not up to Boulder Dash standards, but it's okay-ish, decent-ish. So as I'm ranking these amongst themselves, just because, you know, if I have something on this list that ranks maybe higher or lower on like another list that I've done, like other companies, I'm just ranking these amongst themselves. So with that said, I'm actually putting this as a C. So much of me says I'm not going to find any game higher than a C with all these games that I'm looking at. And with this Crystal Mines game, keep an eye on it because this game will show up later on with a little graphic edit stuff. King Neptune's Adventures, again from Color Dreams. And we're just going through all the Color Dreams games and we'll go all these ones later. It's just bad. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's enough. It looks like it could be cool in a very homebrew kind of way, but no, it's not. I love the name of this game, Master Chew and the Drunkard Who. Master Chew and the Drunkard Who. 2 players simultaneous, so we got a 2-player game on this list, finally. I did rent this in my local video store, and my next door neighbor and I went all the way through it, we beat it. It's not great, but compared to all the other Color Dream games, it's one of the best. So with that said, it's a C. It's a solid C, and that's good for Color Dreams. C for Color Dreams. And the gameplay's fine. It's just you're in kind of a smaller stage. Just collect the 8 yin-yangs, fight the boss, move on to the next stage. And it's again, it's not completely terrible. Only kind of terrible. Venice Beach from Color Dreams should be cool because it's a skateboarding game. And you gotta love the skateboarding games, but people didn't really do skateboarding games very good until much later on. And it's still hard to play. You don't know like if you're hurting the enemy. There's like ninjas. This one's an F. Oh, Metal Fighter, another game that should be cool. Looks like a fun shooter. Like you're gonna be on the ground, you can fly up and fly around and shoot people. Looks like it should be a fun shooter. It's not. It's terrible, but it's kind of playable. It's a D. I think that for a second. It should be an F, but there are other games that definitely deserve the F rating. With that said, Operation Secret Storm is an F. At least they had the. Well, this game came out in '91, Gulf War time and all that. So they actually put, I mean, it's right on the cover, right on the label. You know what you're getting into. Only the game itself is terrible and plays terribly. It's a terrible game. I'm gonna put it as an F. It doesn't mean I wouldn't pick it up if I found one for cheap. But yeah, you know what I mean. Yay, Exterminator. Got it right here. And this game is a unique one. Certainly the head detection is terrible. In fact, a lot of things about this game is terrible. But you are a guy with a giant hammer and a mallet, and you're just you're crushing mice and eliminating the bugs in these houses. It's fun to look at for a couple seconds. It's like applauding the person who made it. It's like actually, it's another one of those. It's terrible, but it's playable. And, I'm putting Exterminator as a D. Hereticus Conflict is a game that's probably the first time I've ever said that name out loud. And I have no clue what I'm doing in this game. I've tried playing it a few times in the past. and it feels like it could be kind of like almost like a Sinistar style, where like you're flying around, you get to like land on the planet and all that. But there's more to it than that, and it's that strategy, tactical stuff that I just admittedly can't get into. So it's also an F. Raid 2020 is called Raid 2020 because the game is set in the futuristic year of 2020. And looking at this and knowing what we're going through now, what did they know that we didn't at the time? Interesting. This game's terrible, and the idea that where the horizontal slats are in the dock, like when you move up, you end up moving up and back a little bit. You know, like you actually follow it. That should never be the case in any game. And aside from that, it's also just a terrible game. So Raid 2020 now. Well, I feel bad for Robo Demons because Robo Demons should be an awesome game, only it's not. I mean, it's called Robo Demons. I love both of those things. And I do like the fact that it has a little bit of the demon elements that you didn't really see in a whole lot of Nintendo games, especially for the time. Would like to have seen more like that, and didn't. And this game didn't deliver as well. It's like you never know if you're hitting the guy. And a lot of these games from Color Dreams, it's like you have to hit even like the easiest of enemies like multiple times to kill them. Which shouldn't be the case. Easiest enemies, one hit kill. But this one, you just can't avoid stuff, and it's terrible. And it's in them. Secret Scouts? What's it called? It's called Secret Scouts in the Temple of Demise. Well, this game is Demise. I don't know. It's another terrible game. I remember one time I did find this at a record store for like $5. Back when it was going for like $50. I'm sure it's more than that now. So that's my story about Secret Scout. And it plays a lot like that Secret Storm game, which again is terrible. In fact, it probably just use some of the same graphics and everything, and same engine, I'm sure. Yeah. The final game on the Color Dreams side before we go to the Ribbon Free is Silent Assault, and it's actually not a bad game. As far as Color Dreams games go, Silent Assault is decent-ish as far as the other games go. You know, it just plays kind of like a run and gun, and you know, it's honestly not a terrible game. If this game came out as a homebrew, like somebody said, hey, I made this game using you know, some you know, I'm learning how to make Nintendo games. Look at this game I made. I'd probably congratulate them. It's not bad. You know, so it's a C. It's a solid C. Alright, we got the Wisdom Tree games. These are those religious games found in like Christian bookstores back in the day. We have Bible Adventures, which is a big yikes. You gotta wiggle around and carry the baby and take it to safety. It's just, when I first saw this game, I was like, is this real? This is legit. Somebody made this and sold it. And no, it's straight to the F category on this one. Give me a game called Bible Buffet, which you go through. It's like a board game. It's like a Nintendo board game. Actually, it has decent speech for a Nintendo game. You spin the wheel, you land on something, and you play that stage, which usually consists of like picking up vegetables and fighting off the evil vegetables, or the pick up the whatever and then fight off the bad whatever in each of those stages, and go through like food. And there's a Bible element in it somewhere. I don't know. You know what? It's actually terrible game. It's kind of playable, and it's interesting to watch all the same. So with Bible Buffet, I put it as a B. Believe it or not. It's a game I used to have. I remember buying that like in the late 90s because I was like, I gotta look at this. Exodus Journey to the Promised Land is, if you remember the Crystal Mines from the Color Dreams, it's the same game, just with different graphics. And instead of shooting in this game, you throw W, which is it's the word of God in the form of a W. And that's how you defeat enemies and how you break suckers. And instead of picking up mines, instead of picking up gems, you pick up milk, apparently. So that's that. And I mean, I guess it wouldn't be fair if I had Crystal Mines as a decent game and not this one, Exodus, in the same category. But do I put it as a C? I'm not playing favorites here. If I have Crystal Mines as a C, man, I'm putting Exodus as a C on this list. I'm making myself report on that one. We have the full name Joshua and the Battle of Jericho, which kind of sounds like an AEW pay-per-view here. I wish they were better. Unfortunately, they are not. And with that, this game goes into the F category. King of Kings is another one of those. Has a few games on here. A little bit of variety. And they're all pretty terrible. I'm putting that one as an F as well. Spiritual Warfare is an interesting one because is it more of kind of a, I I don't want to compare it to Legend of Zelda. I almost did. Oh my god. Sorry. There's there's a different element to this one, unlike the other ones. So for that, I'm putting Spiritual Warfare. You can see the gameplay footage here. I'm putting it a D, just because it's different a little bit. It looks like they spent at least a little bit of time into this one, unlike some of the other ones. You have Sunday Fun Day. Remember Manish Beat? We talked about that with the card game games. Well, they released it as Sunday Fun Day, which is the same game. Only instead of ninjas, it's like other people that are trying to prevent you from doing search on Sunday on a skateboard in your casual weekend clothes. I have no idea, but it's it is no. It's a big no. Is what it is. Onto the budget games now. There's a few of these, and we have Castle of Deceit, which the box art looks cool, but the most deceitful thing about this game is how you look in this game. And it plays like every other card games platformer. It's not very difficult. Galactic Crusader, which is even in the Galactic Crusader, I could have seen this in the arcade. Right next to Space Invaders and Roxy and stuff like that. If they would have made this game for the Atari 2600, I think it would have sold well. You play as what kind of looks like Mothra, which I'm okay with. And it's just a standard, shooter. It's just a standard space shooter as you're shooting other enemies out of the sky and sometimes planets. And your weapon gets upgraded too, so it's actually, I mean, as far as these color games, bunch games, wizardry games go, it's alright. It's a C. Mission Cobra should be alright. Because it's like, oh, it looks like a cool, box art, looks great. And that's the other thing about these games. A lot of these box arts are actually pretty decent. But with Mission Cobra, you see that overhead shooter, you're like, oh, I like overhead shooters. I can do this. And you can't do this. It just moves weird. It moves awkward. It's not great. It is, I mean, it's playable, so I kind of want to put it as a D, but I'm putting it as an F, just because it's not that playable. Moon Ranger could have been a lot better if it was a better game. Just go with that. It's a side-scrolling shooter, and you're shooting stuff out of the way from the sky. It's kind of sluggish, slow-moving. I like how you can turn around and shoot behind you. That's something, but that's not much. It's not enough to get it out of the F zone, so it's another F for me. We have Tag and Dragon. This game is weird. I like the fact that your characters are actually a pretty good size. But you have to go around and you have to eat the other dragons. I guess like fight them in the tail. And if they hit you anywhere, then you're dead. You take damage and all that. But you can also get some power-ups too. However, it's not great. And it's a little hard to, I guess you don't move any faster. So you just have to like outsmart them, but sometimes they come down the aisle anyway and get you from behind or whatever, and you're trying to, fight them. It's another one that's better left not. And it's also. Well, hopefully, if anything, you've learned a few things about some games that maybe you've never heard of, or maybe didn't even know existed. Sometimes we got John Riggs here, and it's high time that we give LJN away. Because people keep saying that LJN makes terrible games. The thing is, they just publish the games. Someone else develops the games. LJN puts their logo on it, puts it out in the public, and they say, oh, it's an LJN game. Terrible. It's like, no. LJN was just the person who released the publisher. Don't worry about them. Blame the developer. You see, the thing with Ocean is most of their games were published and developed by Ocean, so they have no one to blame but themselves. Fortunately for us, when we had 8 games from Ocean, you probably played a couple of them. And they did also publish a few games that were made by someone else, including one from Probe Software, which is actually a really decent company. So in this video, check out all the games from Ocean for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I love doing these videos. Make sure you're subscribed. I do at least 2 videos a week on usually something retro related. I look at new technology, or I check out some new game or something like that. But make sure you're subscribed. I do at least 2 videos a week. Always something new coming out. Well, the first on the list is The Addams Family, which is based on that awesome movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Love it still today. It still holds up today. And this game, not that it's a great game, it's a guilty pleasure. I'm sure I should come back to this game every once in a while. And only the NES version, not the Genesis version, not the Super Nintendo version. This NES version of Addams Family. I still come back to it. Just to play it. Okay. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, it's decent. I'm putting it as a C. And then Pugsley gets a shout out in The Addams Family, Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt. This one's based more on the cartoon that came out around this time too. The cartoon is excellent. The game is not. And it doesn't play as well as the other games, even though they're both made by the same company. So with that in mind, I'm putting this game as a D. Cool World, decent movie. I thought the movie was kind of fun. I like the Ralph Bakshi style of things. But the game was terrible, and I literally don't know what I'm doing with this game. They made a Cool World game for the Super Nintendo. I played that one a little bit better. Like, that one a little bit easier to control. There's one you can't play as, like, not the good guy. He's not really the bad guy either, but he's just not really, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen Cool World as well. No, this game isn't out. Darkman, I was curious about that movie. It's a movie I still haven't seen today. And I have played this game, and I can't get anywhere. You move too fast, you move too weird. You can try to climb off the walls. That's the lowest point for my book. There's little balancing things like when you're crossing the rope. That's something different for an Nintendo game at least, so that's okay. But looking at the magazine, like looking at Power or the magazine, or just looking at the stages, I thought it looked really fun. And the fact that you could change it to look like someone else. But I never got that far. I always died. It kept on falling off, or someone would throw me or something like that. So this game, for everything it is, I'm putting this game at the ball. This is a lot for enough. Isn't it? The NES kind of got the shaft for Jurassic Park, unfortunately. The Super Nintendo game I thought was kind of cool, showing the overall map and everything, and when you go inside the buildings, it turns out like that human perspective, that first-person shooter. I thought that was pretty cool for the Super Nintendo version. The Genesis version is, of course, the optimal version. I mean, that's the best one, of course. Love the Genesis version of Jurassic Park. But the NES version isn't terrible. It's not a terrible game, but it does have the overhead view like the Super Nintendo version does. Only, it's very limited. I'll give it this, though. It has one of the most underrated NES soundtracks out there. So if you've never even played the game, never even knew that there was a Jurassic Park game for the NES, at least look up the soundtrack. It's good. The game itself is not great, though. I'm putting the game itself as a C. Lethal Weapon for the NES. There's rigs, gotta love that. Looking at the box art, this game looks like it would be based on Lethal Weapon 3. Or is this called Lethal Weapon? It is terrible. This game, you can play as either character in this game, but how you stop your characters is you move all the way off the screen going backwards, and then the other person will just kind of show up and respond to the screen. That's how you swap characters. That's not optimal. If you ever played this game, first of all, this is how you throw a knife. It's kind of like drop it like you don't know how to. You kind of like toss it like a lawn dart or something. You just kind of like toss it like you don't know how to pull the paper airplane or something. And this game is Oh, we have RoboCop 3. This is the one from Pro. And it plays very well, actually. I shouldn't say very well. That's super nice. It plays decent. I prefer the other RoboCop games, honestly. The other two RoboCop games were from the 80s, the 80s studio. But this one here, it could be one of the better games from Ocean as far as the NES version goes. You can't shoot straight up, which is odd. You want to shoot up in the angle. And the enemies just keep coming out. But, the game itself, it could have been a lot better. It should have been a lot better. But, for Ocean, I'll take it. It's also a C. It came out with an Untouchables game, and there's an Untouchables game for the Super Nintendo as well. But the NES version, it's not great. It's a cover shooter, and I bet you didn't think it was good. If I didn't think it was going to be a cover shooter on the NES back in the day, but there was at least a minute. You hide behind the building, and you come out and shoot the guys and come back. The problem is, the people only come out of the window for like a second and then go back in. So you have to predict where they're going to be and hopefully not get shot up in the meantime, waiting for them to come out and then just aim your gun. You're going to be under the aim the person.
shelves in silence. But sometimes, you don't have a choice. It was just past midnight when I pulled into the Walmart parking lot. I'd been putting off this trip all week, and of course, it had to be done when I was bone tired and the rest of the world was asleep. The parking lot was vast, stretching out in front of the store like a deserted wasteland. A few scattered cars were parked under the dim glow of streetlights, their shadows long and distorted against the cracked pavement. The fluorescent lights from inside the store flickered out into the dark, and despite the brightness, the whole place felt shrouded in gloom. I don't know why I felt uneasy. I'd been to Walmart 100 times that night, but tonight, the silence was thick and a nagging sense of discomfort settled into the pit of my stomach. The sound of my car door slamming shut echoed in the empty lot, and as I locked it, I instinctively glanced over my shoulder. Nothing. Just shadows and silence. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid. I had a short list of things to grab: printer ink, coffee, some snacks. No big deal. But even as I made my way across the parking lot, the hair on the back of my neck prickled as if someone was watching me. As I neared the entrance, I heard it, a faint rustling sound. My footsteps faltered and I glanced to my left, where rows of parked cars lined the side of the lot. At first, I didn't see anything. But then, from behind one of the cars, a figure emerged. He stepped out slowly, almost deliberately, as if he'd been waiting for me. His clothes were rumpled, his hair wild and unkempt. The man looked disheveled, like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes, wide, bloodshot, locked onto mine, and a chill ran down my spine. I tried to tell myself it was just another late-night shopper, someone who had no doubt wandered out for cigarettes or beer. But there was something off about the way he was looking at me. His gaze wasn't casual. It was intense, like he was trying to figure something out about me. I felt exposed under his scrutiny, like he could see right through me. I forced a smile and kept walking, quickening my pace toward the automatic doors. I told myself he would leave me alone, that he wasn't really paying attention to me. But just as I was about to reach the entrance, I heard his voice, hoarse and slurred, like he'd been yelling for hours. "Hey man," he called out, "you got a minute?" I froze. His tone wasn't friendly. It was demanding, almost desperate. I turned around slowly, my heart started to beat a little faster. "Sorry," I mumbled. I'm in a hurry." But the man didn't take the hint. He took a step forward, his eyes never leaving mine. No, just a second," he insisted, his voice rough and uneven. "I need to ask you something." There was something about the way he said it that made my skin crawl. His tone was insistent, as if he wasn't asking for a favor. He was demanding my attention. And those wild eyes, they never blinked. I should have just walked away. I knew that. But I didn't want to be rude. And a part of me thought that maybe, just maybe, I was overreacting. So I stopped. "Yeah," I asked, my voice tight with nerves. He closed the distance between us, standing too close for comfort. The smell hit me first. Sweat, alcohol, something rotten and sour, like he hadn't bathed in days. I tried to take a step back, but he matched my movement, his eyes still locked onto mine. Do you know what time it is?" he asked. But there was something strange about the way he said it, like it wasn't really a question. I glanced at my phone, hoping to diffuse the situation quickly. "It's 12:15. I replied, my voice barely steady. He nodded slowly, but his eyes never left my face. 12:15, he repeated, his voice soft now, almost like he was talking to himself. "That's a good time, real good time." My unease turned into full-blown dread. What the hell did that mean? I tried to back away again, but he stepped forward, closing the gap even more. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the weight of the situation settling over me like a suffocating blanket. "I really need to get inside," I said, my voice firm, though my nerves were fraying fast. "Have a good night." I turned to leave, but his hand shot out and grabbed my arm, his grip tight and clammy. I froze, my breath catching in my throat as I looked down at his fingers wrapped around my sleeve. He wasn't just holding me, he was clutching me, like I was the only thing keeping him tethered to reality. "You can't leave," he whispered, his voice shaking now. "You don't understand. They're watching us." I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me. I stammered, trying to pull my arm free. "Who's watching?" He leaned in closer, his breath hot and foul against my face. Then, he hissed, the ones in the cars, the ones who hide in the shadows. My mind raced. This guy wasn't just creepy, he was unhinged. My heart pounded louder, and I knew I had to get away from him, fast. I forced a laugh, trying to keep my voice light, even though I could feel the panic rising in my throat. Yeah, okay, I said, but I've really got to go. I hope you get some help, man. This time, I yanked my arm free with a little more force, taking a quick step back. His eyes widened as I did, and for a split second, I thought he might lunge at me, but he didn't. Instead, he just stood there, his wide, unblinking eyes following me as I hurried away. I didn't look back until I was almost to the entrance. But when I did, I saw him standing exactly where I'd left him, staring at me with that same unsettling intensity. My hands were shaking as I grabbed a card and headed inside. The bright lights of the store felt almost too harsh now, the aisles too wide, too exposed. My mind was racing, replaying the encounter over and over again. I needed to get what I came for and leave. A drink, coffee, snacks, just focus. But as I walked through the store, I couldn't stop glancing toward the entrance. My nerves were on edge, and every slight movement made me jump. I kept telling myself that I was safe now, that he wasn't going to follow me inside. But I was wrong. I had just grabbed a bag of chips when I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. I turned. There he was, standing at the end of the aisle. He wasn't looking at the shelves. He wasn't pretending to shop. He was looking directly at me. A cold sweat broke out across my forehead as I quickly turned away. My heart racing. He hadn't moved, hadn't said anything. But his presence was enough to send waves of fear crashing over me. I grabbed the rest of the items on my list as quickly as I could, practically running to the self-checkout. My hands fumbled with the machine as I scanned my items, my eyes darting nervously toward the entrance. He was gone again, but I didn't feel any relief. The moment I finished paying, I grabbed my bag and hurried toward the exit. I didn't want to think about where he was or what he was doing. I just needed to get to my car and get the hell out of there. But as soon as I stepped outside, I saw him again. He was standing by the row of parked cars, his wild eyes fixed on me. He wasn't moving, just standing there, waiting. My pulse quickened, and I made a beeline for my car, keeping my head down and trying to avoid eye contact. My mind raced, trying to come up with excuses, with ways to de-escalate if he approached me again. But this time, there was no avoiding it. The moment I reached my car, he started walking toward me, his footsteps slow and deliberate. I unlocked the car as fast as I could, practically throwing myself inside and slamming the door shut. My hands were shaking so badly that I fumbled with the key for a moment before finally starting the engine. But just as I put the car in reverse, he appeared at my window. His face was twisted with some kind of wild, manic anger, his mouth moving with the words coming out incoherent. He slammed his hands against the window, the force rattling the glass. I jumped, my heart racing in my chest. Open the door, he screamed, his voice high-pitched and desperate. You have to let me in. They're coming. They're coming. I threw the car into reverse and hit the gas, but he didn't back away. He slammed his fists against the window again, his eyes wide with panic and fury. I could barely breathe as I pulled out of the parking spot, my foot slamming on the gas pedal as I sped toward the exit. In the rearview mirror, I could see him chasing after me, his arms flailing wildly, but he was no match for the car. I didn't stop until I was a few blocks away. Even when I was far from the store, my hands still trembled on the wheel. I couldn't get the image of his wild eyes out of my head, the way he had screamed, the way he had pounded on the window like he was trying to break through. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see his figure running after me, even though I knew that was impossible. The streets were empty, quiet, but my mind was filled with the memory of his voice. They're coming. Who was he talking about? Who did he think was watching him? It didn't matter. I just needed to get home, lock the doors, and try to forget this ever happened. But as the days passed, the memory of that night lingered. I found myself glancing over my shoulder whenever I walked through parking lots. I started checking the backseat of my car before getting in, convinced that someone was watching me. I never went back to that Walmart. And even though I haven't seen him since that night, his voice still echoes in my mind. wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary when I went to Walmart that afternoon. It was just a quick stop after work, a routine errand really. I needed a few things for dinner and figured I'd be in and out within half an hour. The store wasn't particularly busy and I liked that. It gave me space to